Okay, for this lecture, we're going to be covering questions 9 through 20. So we're still looking at similarity. So here for questions 9 and 10, it says find the missing length. The triangles in each pair are similar. So just because I gave you guys that statement that triangles in each pair are similar, that means the angles are the same and sides are proportional. So I just need to make two fractions to be able to solve for the missing side. Okay, so first of all, let me highlight in red. I see one triangle here. I'm highlighting the triangle that includes what we're looking for, right? The question mark. We learn that in mathematics that when we don't know the value of something, we replace it with a letter. It's usually X. So let me replace this with an X, okay? So now for those three sides, right? X, 21, and 39, I only need two. X being one of them because I'm solving for X. So I'm just going to use two of those values and I'm going to make two fractions. I'm going to keep these on the top of my fractions. So I'm going to use the X and 21. Like I said, I'm making two fractions. And I put the X and the 21 both on the top. Again, it doesn't matter if you use the 21 or the 39. Of the three sides, it's okay to use only two because we know they are similar. Now, for the other triangle, let me highlight it with blue, and I'm going to highlight it on the outside. I see this big side out here. I see this third side here. Well, there's three sides here. As a matter of fact, let me go here instead. So I highlighted in blue the other triangle, and I know they are similar. Now, the side PR, we can tell is 44. The side RQ here at the bottom, we can tell is 28. And the side PQ, we can tell is 52. I'm going to use my corresponding sides. Okay, so in red, I chose X, and I can see X is right here. So X goes with 44. So under X, let me write 44. 21 goes with 28. So under 21, let me go with 28. Okay. Feel free to simplify your fractions if you want to. 21 and 28, we can always divide by 7. But you don't have to simplify. So in this case, I'm not going to simplify. I'm just going to cross multiply. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go X times 28. That is 28x, right? When we're multiplying a number with a letter, we just put them together. So 28x, that means 28 times x. And this is going to equal to, on this other side, I'm going to go 44 times 21. Use a calculator if you need to. That gives me 924. So I know that 28 times x is equal to 924. Now to get x by itself, let me divide both sides by 28. Right? I divide by the number in front of x, because that way 28 divided by 28 is 1x. So just write x equals. On the other side, 924 divided by 28 is equal to 33. X is equal to 3. I was finding the missing length, right? I called it x just because we like to solve for a letter. But in reality, the value is 33. So when you type in your work, when you type in your answer, you don't have to go x equals. Just type in 33. Similarity for number 10, like the same idea. I'm looking at one triangle. The question mark, I'm going to call it X. And I see the numbers X and 54, right? In that triangle, X and 54. So let me write two fractions, X and 54. I kept these two on the top. Now, when I look at that triangle, I can tell X is bigger, right? We compare the length. X looks bigger than 54. Again, I'm comparing the length of the sides. So I'm going to say X goes on the other side, X goes with 70 and 54 goes with 30. How did I know that? X, which is the long side, goes with 70, which is the long side. And 54, which is shorter, goes with 30. Feel free to simplify the fractions if you want to. I'm just going to cross multiply. When I go this way, 30 times x, that gives me 30x. When I go the other side, 54 times 70, I'm looking this way. 54 times 70 is 3,780. If we simplify fractions at the beginning, we're just going to deal with smaller numbers, but it's okay. We can deal with big numbers. We can always use a calculator. Now, to get x by itself, let me divide both sides by 30. I'd always divide it by the number in front of x, so I get x by itself. 3,780 divided by 30 gives me 126. So my answer in this case, x is equal to 126. Just type in 126. All right, let me flip the page. Let me take a look at number 11. I'm looking at one triangle, and that is this triangle. That question mark, let me call it x. I can tell there's two sides, and I'm going to make two fractions. X and 52 are the values from that triangle. So I'm going to say x and 52. Now, the bottom of each of these values, under the x, under the 52, I'm going to write the corresponding sides. Now, if x is smaller than 52, x goes with 11, right? I'm going to get from the other triangle. Let me highlight this in blue. We can tell to have 11 and 13, okay? So if x is smaller than 52, x goes with 11. If x is bigger than 52, x goes with 13. I'm comparing the length. Now, don't think that they go this way all the time. Not necessarily. Don't think the 11 goes with the x and the 13 goes with the 52 all the time, because I could also have the 11 going with 52 and 13 going with x. You don't know if the red triangle, I flipped it or not. So I cannot say they always go one way or the other. Instead, I'm going to use a notation. You notice how numbered 11 on the very top, where it says triangle LKJ is similar to triangle LQR. Okay, the x side, right, where I have the value of x, is the side LK. Remember, we learned how to label this in the first semester. So LK, I'm going to use the notation. LK, if you notice, are the first two letters of this triangle. So LK is going to go with LQ, which is the two first letters of the second triangle. And LQ is 11. You guys notice the side LQ? So X goes with 11. So X goes with 11. Let me write my 11 under the X. So in that case, let me write a 13 under 52. So I just found out that X is smaller than 52. Like I said, if you could have told, you could have seen, yeah, X is smaller than 52, comparing the length, X is smaller, then you already knew that X went with 11. If you cannot tell, use the notations of the triangles. Okay, now I'm ready to cross multiply. I'm just gonna go, let me change this to black. 13 times X gives me 13X. 52 times 11, that gives me 572. Now let me divide both sides by 13. I always divide by the numbered in front of X. So I'm dividing by 13. So this 13's become a 1x. 572 divided by 13 is 44. I expected X to be smaller than 52, so 44 sounds about right. And remember, in your homework, you're just going to type in 44. Nice. Let's take a look at number 12. I'm looking at a red triangle. Let me highlight the triangle I'm looking at. I'm looking at this red triangle. One of the sides is X. The question mark, I always change it for a letter. And I always change it for a letter of my choice. Then I'm going to choose X all the time. All right, I could choose any letter that I want. Now here, if X is smaller than 28. I'm gonna compare later with the blue triangle. Let me highlight in blue the triangle that I'm referring to, blue triangle. If X is smaller than 28, X is gonna go with 130. If X is bigger, X is gonna go with 182. So I'm just gonna make a proportion. I'm gonna do the X and the 28. They come from the red triangle. I'm using the two values. Again, if you can already tell if X is smaller or bigger, then you already know which number to write under each of these two. If you cannot tell, and I'm just going to do it if we could not tell. If I could not tell, I'm going to use the notations. X is the side TN. Because notice I'm connecting T with N, those points. So X is the side TN or NT. This happens to be the first two letters of the second triangle, right? TN, NT is the same thing. The first two letters of the second triangle, so NT goes with NM. I see where N is, and I see M. So I'm going to say X goes with 130. And 28 goes with 182. All right, so if you could have seen from the beginning X is smaller than 28, then you already knew that X goes with 130. So I just know X is less than 28. So a number less than 28 will make sense. Now, I'm just going to cross multiply. When I go this way, 182 times X. Again, I know when I'm multiplying a letter and a number, I'm just going to write them together. So let me just go 182x equals, on the other side, 28 times 130 is 3,640. Because I know these two triangles are similar, I know the fractions are proportional. Remember, when the fractions are proportional, I can cross multiply it and I get the same result. That's why I'm letting them equal each other. Okay, so I have 182 times X equals 3,640. Now let me divide both sides by 182. Again, I'm trying to get the X by itself. So let me divide by the number in front of X. So I'm going to get X is equal to, now 3,640 divided by 182 happens to be 20. Remember I said X was less than 28, so I was expecting a number less than 28. So 20 seems okay. Let's take a look now at question number 13. Still looking at similar triangles, but this gives us a hard time sometimes because we don't know which side is bigger, which side is smaller. So we had to use the notation. That's why number 13 on the beginning, I have a notation. Triangle KLM is similar to triangle KFE. Okay, so let me take a look at this triangle in red. I'm solving for X. The triangles are similar. So because they're similar, that's why I know I can do proportions. So I'm just going to write 30 and 5x minus 10. Those are the two sides. Okay. And then there is a blue triangle. And I'm going to use the value 6 and 8. Okay. Now, if 30 is smaller than 5x minus 10, then 30 goes with 6. But if 30 is bigger, then 30 goes with 8. If you cannot tell, I'm looking at the side 30. So notice that I'm connecting the points K and L. So I'm looking at the letters KL or LK. In this case, KL happens to be the first two letters again. The first two letters here, KL, goes with KF. Here's F. I see KF. So 30 goes with 6. And 5x minus 10 goes with 8. And I'm just going to cross multiply. So let me change this to black. Now, because of the minus, right? Every time there's a plus or minus, in this case, minus, I'm going to multiply the number by itself. So 6, the blue 6, I'm going to go 6 times 5x and 6 times 10. The number by itself, I have to multiply to both, right? And keep the minus, obviously. So 6 times 5x will give me 30x minus. Like I said, I have to keep the minus. And 6 times 10 is going to give me 60. Okay, let me write my equal sign. So again, I went 6 times 5x and 6 times 10. And I kept the minus. If I had a plus, keep the plus. On the other way, 30 times 8 is 240. Okay, so I have the 30 times x minus 60 is equal to 240. I want to have the 30x by itself. So the minus 60, I want to cancel the minus 60, but in math, we don't just cancel it. I'm going to move it to the other side of the equal sign, okay? So it was minus 60 here. So matter of fact, if you want to write a little line that separates the equal sign, that's good. The minus 60 on one side, I'm going to write it on the other side as a plus 60. Don't forget to switch the sign. We go opposite operation. Instead of a minus, I go plus. So I have that 30x is equal to 300. Right, 240 times 60 is 300. Now, to get the x by itself, let me divide both sides by 30. So I get x is equal to, now 300 divided by 30 happens to be 10. So x equals 10. Again, you don't have to type in x equals, just type in 10. Let me take a look at question number 14. Always take a look at x first. Where is x? And I'm going to call it in red. I'm going to highlight this big triangle. Because I see one of the sides is negative 7 plus 19x. That's the entire side. And then I have to either use the 140 or the 112. It doesn't matter which. Just to choose one, let me choose the 140. You could use 112 instead, if that's what you want. So let me write negative 7 plus 19x over, and I'm going to let this equal to, remember, I'm going to write two fractions. And then on the other fraction, I'm going to write 140. I'm going to write two fractions, and I kept this negative 7 plus 19x and 140. I kept it on the top of my fractions. Now I'm going to go corresponding sides. There is a smaller triangle. Let me highlight this in blue. There's a smaller triangle. I have the numbers 27, 24, and 30. I'm going to use the corresponding sides. So negative 7 plus 19x is this side. So that goes with 27. 140, which is this whole side, that goes with 30. If we would have used 112, that goes with 24. Let me cross multiply it. Let me cross multiply the value that has the x first. There is a plus in between. So remember, the number by itself, in this case 30, I'm going to have to multiply it to the other numbers and keep a plus in between. 30 times a negative 7, that gives me negative 210. And then plus. Now 30 times 19 is 570x. This is going to equal to, on this other side, I have to go 140 times 27. And that is 3,780. If it helps, draw a little line right there through the equal sign. I want the term with the x by itself, so I need to get rid of the negative 210. So I need to get rid of this minus 210, and I'm going to write it on the other side as a plus 210. Remember to switch the sign, all right? Don't forget that. So I have 570x is equal to 3,990. To get x by itself, let me divide both sides by 570. I always divide it by the number in front of x. So I get x equals to, now 3,990 divided by 570 is equal to 7. So x is equal to 7. Beautiful. Now, let's move on to question number 15. Still solving for x. I see a red triangle. And from that red triangle, the two sides that I'm going to use are negative 7 plus x and 9. And then I see a blue triangle. And I see the values 14 and 18. Now I got to match them. I got to match them with what they go with. FE, right? The one value that has the x is the values FE. Because look, I'm connecting the values FE. So I'm looking at my notation on the top. TUV is similar to TEF. So FEEF, however they write it, this happens to be, in this case, the last two letters on the second triangle. The last two letters. So that's going to go with the last two letters from over here. So FE, the side EF, goes with the side UV. And that happens to be this one. So I'm going to say that negative 7 plus x goes with 14. And 9 goes with 18. If you like to simplify, because you want to deal with small numbers, 9 over 18, you can call that 1 over 2. I know I'm going to have to cross multiply, but we have a calculator. We have the use of a calculator, so I'm not going to simplify. Like I said, if you want to deal with small numbers, we cross multiply. We go this way, and then we go this way. The way we multiplied is the only way we cannot simplify. We can simplify any other way. So like I said, 9 with 18, divide each by 9. But also at the bottom, the blue numbers, 14 and 18, divide each by 2 to make them smaller. Like I said, if you want to simplify, you can do that as well. But I'm not going to. Like I said, we have a use of a calculator, so I'm just going to cross multiply. So there is a plus sign. There is a plus sign here. So I had to respect that. The number 18, I'm going to multiply to both numbers right before and after the plus sign. So 18 times a negative 7 going to give me a negative 126 plus, I have to respect the plus sign, and 18 times x is just 18x. And this is equal to, I have to go 14 times 9, which is 126. Let me separate my sides to the equal sign. I want the 18x by itself. I want the term that has x by itself. So this minus 126, I want to get rid of it. I'm going to move it to the other side. Don't forget to switch the sign. So let me write this as a plus 126. So I'm just going to get 18x is equal to 252. Right, 126 plus 126 gives me 252. Now, to get x by itself, let's divide by 18. right? I always divide by the number in front of x. 252 divided by 18 happens to be 14. So x equals 14. Beautiful. Except today we're working up into number 20. So we're almost there. Let's take a look at number 16. From the red triangle, I'm going to use the measurements 5x plus 2 on top of my first fraction, and then 44 on the top of the second fraction. Now I have to find the corresponding sides. Okay, so now there's a blue triangle that has the measurements 8 and 11. If you can tell that 5x plus 2, it's either smaller or bigger than 44, then you're good to go. You already know what are the corresponding sides. If you cannot tell, I'm going to use the notation, right? It says triangle DEF is similar to triangle DMN. So I want to compare the side that has the X. So that's the side ED or DE. ED, DE, however they write it. So I'm looking at my notations. I'm looking for ED or DE. That happens to be the first two letters of the first triangle. So that goes with DM. And that happens to be 8. So 5x plus 2 goes with 8, and 44 goes with 11. Good. Now that I know, I'm ready to cross multiply. I'm going to cross multiply this way. Because of the plus sign, I'm going to go 11 times 5x and 11 times 2. So that's going to give me 55x. Have to keep the plus sign. And 11 times 2, I know, is 22. Equals. Now on this other side, I have to go 44 times 8. And that is 352. Separate my sides through the equal sign. That way I can see one side and the other side. I can see them separate. I want the term that has the x by itself. So I want to cancel. I want to get rid of this plus 22. I want to get rid of it. And I get rid of it by moving it to the other side. Don't forget to switch the sign. So let me switch it as a minus 22. So that's going to give me that 55x is equal to 330. Right, 352 minus 22 is 330. Now to get x by itself, let me divide by the number in front of x. So in this case, let me divide by 55. So I'm going to get x is equal to 6. 330 divided by 55 is just 6. Moving along, let's take a look at number 17. The polygons in each pair are similar. Okay, so that means the sides are proportional. Find the scale factor of the smaller figure to the larger figure. Okay, so now it's scale factored. You guys have seen, you guys go to models when you guys compared like the model cars, when you guys build the model trains, model airplanes, you guys can go in there and it has a scale. Sometimes the scale they write is they can write 1 over, they can write it as a fraction, 1 over 3, or let's say 1 over 17. What that means, you know, what that fraction means, like I said, when you guys buy model cars, you guys can see them at the store. What that means is that 1 inch in the model car represents 17 inches in the real car. That way you can find out what's the length of certain things. Or you have a model airplane, right? We cannot just easily go to an airplane and get our measuring tape and measure things. But if you have a model airplane and you know the scale factor, then you know, you can find out what's the length of things. Now, 1 over 17, sometimes they write it as a fraction. Sometimes they say 1 to 17. And it's the same thing, right? 1 inch on the model car represents 17 inches from the real car. But we also use a third way of writing. Well, another way is 1:17. And this is pretty much how we're going to type this out. We're going to use the colon. We're not going to use the fraction. We're not going to use the 2. We're going to use 1:17. Like I said, when we write scale factors, there's 3 ways of writing them. We're going to use the one with the colon, the one with the dots. Okay, now notice it says on the instructions here, it says we're going to find the scale factor of the smaller figure to the larger figure. So the number from the smaller figure comes first. Okay, so I'm going to look at 4. That's a value from the small figure, and then 4 goes with 20. So to begin with, I'm not quite done yet. To begin with, I'm going to write 4:20. My scale factor is 4 to 20. Don't write any spaces in between. Write it all together, 4:20, so 4 to 20. But remember how I said one way to look at a scale factor is as a fraction. Remember how in fractions you can simplify your numbers. That means that this third way, you can simplify fractions as well. You can simplify your numbers. So looking at our work so far is 4 to 20. I can simplify my numbers. And the way I'm going to simplify it is I'm going to divide them both by the same thing, and I'm going to get a smaller number. Let me divide, in this case, let me divide them by 4. I'm going to divide the first one by 4 and the second one by 4. Right? I just chose a number that can be divided into both of them without getting decimals. I know 4 divided by 4 is 1, and I know 20 divided by 4 is 5. So my scale factor simplified to 1 to 5. Now this cannot be simplified anymore, so that's going to be it. If I type in 4 to 20, Canvas is going to tell me it's incorrect because I have to simplify. Make sure your answer is simplify. All right, so let's take a look at number 18. Remember, I'm going from the smaller figure to the larger figure. So I'm going to compare this 15. And that goes, oh no, 15 goes with this side, and I don't know what that side is. Okay, so I cannot use that 15. Instead, and then another value I cannot use is this 35, because that goes with this side. Okay, so I cannot use that 35 either. Instead, I'm going to use this 35, because that 35 goes with this 42. Remember the smaller figure first. So let me write 35 to 42. And I'm going to simplify. I'm thinking, all right, I know 35 I can divide it by 5 and I can divide it by 7. But 42 cannot be divided by 5, but can be divided by 7. So in this case, let me divide each of these by 7. Like I said, I have to simplify my numbers. So let me divide each by 7. So that's going to give me 5 to 6. Okay, not that bad. The last 2 questions, we're going to use our scale factor. So looking at question number 19, it says solve for x. The polygons in each pair are similar. Notice how from each figure, I only have one value. And I'm going to say 4x plus 1 goes with 30. And I'm supposed to be able to solve for x. Now, 4x plus 1 is not equal to 30. So don't let them equal to each other and solve for x. Don't do that. Instead, I'm going to write 4x plus 1 and 30 as a fraction. Now, I have to worry. Do I do the 4x plus 1 on top or the bottom? I'm going to look at my instructions here. I have a scale factor from A to B. Notice how my figures, they label A and B. So A to B, so I have to do the A value first. the value that I got from figure A goes on the top. So let me write this as 4x plus 1 over 30. Because I did a scale factor. In this case, I'm going to use fractions. I did a scale factored from A to B. But in order for me to be able to solve for x, I have to let this equal something. And I see that my scale factor from A to B is equal to 5 to 6. Right? I'm getting that from here. So I'm going to let this equal to 5 over 6. When I'm solving for x, I like to use fractions because we know how to cross multiply. Okay, so to solve for x, let me cross multiply. When I go this way, because of the plus sign in between, I have to go 6 times 4x and 6 times 1. Okay, I know 6 times 4x is 24x plus 6 times 1 is 6. This is equal to 5 times 30 is 150. It's okay if I separate my sides. I'm going to draw the little segment just for me to see my sides. I want that 24x. I want that term with x by itself. So this plus 6, let me move it to the other side as a minus 6. Don't forget to switch the signs. So then I have that 24x is equal to 144. Right, 150 minus 6, that's 144. And then to get x by itself, let me divide by 24. X equals to 144 divided by 24 happens to be 6. Okay, cool. I was able to solve that x is equal to 6. Now looking at number 20, let's take a look at another example. We know the scale factor from A to B. So I'm looking at the values. And then I have to write the A first because it's from A to B. So let me write this as 2x minus 11 over 14 equals, and I know this scale factor is 1 to 2. So 1 over 2. And I'm going to just cross multiply. When I go this way, have to respect the minus in between. So I have to go 2 times 2x, 2 times 11. So that's going to give me 4x minus, I have to respect the minus, 22 equals. Remember, I went 2 times 2x, I went 2 times 11 equals, and then 14 times 1 is just 14. Let me separate my sides so I can see the left side and the right side. I can tell the difference. I want the 4x by itself, so this minus 22. Let me move it as a plus 22. Don't forget to switch your signs. So I have that 4x is equal to 36. Right? 14 plus 22 is 36. To get x by itself, let me divide by 4. X equals to 36 divided by 4 is just 9. So x is equal to 9.